started in the tech industry and how has your journey been so far?
It's interesting you asked this question because I was just, I have a 16-year-old daughter who's right now applying for colleges and she's writing her essays, right? You write the essays. And she's into tech too. And actually, I think it just is in the family. My mom was a techie, graduated in math, and then I think I've always had an interest in that, so I ended up getting into technology. But a lot of times, just because you graduate with a subject, you don't stay with it. So once I got into the tech industry, I found I really enjoy what I do. I think that's the main thing. It can be anything, once you enjoy what you do, you stay with it.
That's a great point, Purnima, and that's probably why you're in the leadership role now. However, are there any challenges that you encountered while you were, climbing up the ladder, and how did you overcome these challenges?
This is something that I frequently get asked, and I also actually do a talk about countering bias in the technology space. By the way, bias is not just gender bias, it can also be racial bias, it can be educational background bias, whatever, right? You see all kinds of bias. But one of the things I've felt is, when you think about the bias that you face, it's as much about the person on the other side as it is about you, right? So how do you interpret someone's opinion of you and how do you let it impact you is a very big piece. So at least when I talk to a lot of people about countering bias, I say, don't assume intent. If somebody is saying something, you can assume a negative intent, which then hurts you, or you can assume a positive intent, or no intent for that matter. And so letting bias flow off your back like, water on a duck's skin is very important, because that preserves your confidence, that preserves your focus, and you're able to get further much faster. So that's my example.
Correct. Water on a duck's skin, I remember that. Diversity and inclusion are important topics now in the tech industry, right? Could you discuss your approach to fostering a diverse and inclusive workplace culture within your organization?
Excellent question. And I am a very, very, very big believer in diversity and inclusion, because we always know the collective intelligence that you have is way more powerful than the individual intelligence. And when I think about diversity, often diversity is very restricted in definitions to just race and gender. But when I think of diversity, I think of diversity of thought, diversity of educational backgrounds, diversity of experiences, and then of course diversity of race and gender. All these are important when you think about your team. And the way so one is of course hiring diverse talent, but beyond that, it's not enough that you hire diverse talent. The reason there's inclusivity in that definition is you have to also figure out a way to help people participate. Many times you go into a room and if nobody else looks like you or nobody else feels like you, then you clamp down. So how do you create an environment of inclusion is very important. And so I have three main tenets that I have established for my organization. One is I always say debate, decide and commit. Debate, decide and commit, which is, it is very important to foster debate, and it is very important to allow people to have counter opinions. So I actually spend a lot of time in enabling that culture. But it doesn't mean that you debate forever. After you decide whether you agree or disagree, you have to commit and move on. But it allows everybody to have their say without feeling worried, are they going to get, penalized for it? The second piece is that we win and lose as a team. So one team is a big, big part of my culture that I bring. And the third piece is, of course, focus on the outcome and value for the customer, so customer centricity. And I found, of course, you can have many different principles, but these three principles have really helped me build teams where there is both diversity as well as, of course, diversity you have to go and hire, but there's also inclusion of ideas and thought. And I do this not because I want to tick mark something on a sheet of paper. We have metrics to say, okay, thou shalt have this level of diverse talent and so on. But I fundamentally believe it improves my business outcome. So I'm doing it for a selfish reason. No, so truly. Because, and if everybody thinks of it as a selfish reason, we will actually have a much better environment. Because you fundamentally are improving outcomes. I'm not doing charity for anybody. By having a diverse environment, by having an inclusive environment, I'm improving my outcomes. And that's a fundamental change we have to have in diversity and inclusion. You should not do it as a tick mark, or you should not do it as a charity.
So women are still underrepresented in many technology leadership roles, like I mentioned before. So what initiatives or programs does VMware support, does VMware come up with to encourage more women to pursue careers in tech and leadership?
Actually, VMware is one of the nicest cultures, corporate cultures that I've ever been at. In fact, I've done many different companies. I've been at VMware for 7 years. That's probably longest I've been at any company. Yeah, and it's because I love the culture here. And VMware does a lot to make it easier for everybody to participate and be included. But there is a fundamental problem which is actually a hard one for us to solve as an industry, which is you can hire women early in the career, and if they get past the middle stage, you can also have women who are, in senior roles. But it is that gap in the middle that becomes the hardest. So when women get into child bearing age, and when they have school children and so on, the middle management is where we start losing people. And so that is where trying to have, first of all, you can keep waiting for the society to change, but that is happening, but it needs to happen in parallel, right? But having programs that allow flexible options, flexible work from home options, etc., are very critical for that middle stage, as well as raising awareness across the community about shared responsibility also becomes important, right? So VMware has some good programs, but I don't think it's still completely a solution. But as I would encourage all women to also think as they go through that middle stage of career, which is how do you think not only of your career, but how do you think of shared, just like you don't build a product by yourself, right? Similarly, at home, how do you think of shared responsibility? How do you think of essential versus, and I know I'm getting into a little bit into the personal realm here, but how do you think of things that are essential for you to do versus things that you can outsource, right? These are ways in which women can navigate through that middle phase much better. Once you get past the middle phase, again, it gets easier because children are older and so on.
So Purnima, when it comes to women, right, we often look for a role model. For instance, for me, it's you, it's Annati Bhattacharya from Salesforce, it's the women from, who made the Chandrayaan mission.
Yeah, indeed.
So is there anybody that you looked up to in your
Yeah, I mean, I told you, for me, it's been my mother.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I've really looked up to her. She graduated in an era where women didn't work as much, right, outside the home, but she graduated with math. She found a way where she was from home teaching advanced math to a lot of kids. In fact, she started coaching IIT students from home. And the best part is not only has she kept her interest up, even now I can talk to her about any technology, any area, she picks it up very fast. But it's also her ambition for me, and that is now translated to my ambition for my daughter.
Clearly, tech runs in the family.
Tech does run in the family, yeah.
So lastly, Purnima, what advice do you have for young women who are looking to pursue careers in technology and eventually reach leadership roles?
I think whatever career you pursue, whether technology or not, make sure you love it, right? And of course, it's not as if you know what you love right away, but as you start pursuing a career, make sure you're enjoying it, right? If you're just doing it for the sake of a job, it's hard to advance, right? So, and as I said, I really haven't been in a job that I don't enjoy. I really enjoy the work that I do. I enjoy building products, I enjoy participating with customers, I enjoy trying to change communities. So that's first tenet, enjoy what you're doing. And then the second one is in terms of career progression and getting to leadership roles, right? You have to keep making sure not only are you aware of the opportunities around you, but in whatever role you are, don't wait for somebody to anoint you to the next role. Take leadership, take ownership, expand beyond what your current chosen responsibility is. So then what happens is most of the times you're already functioning beyond what your role is. So that when the next opportunity comes, you become the natural candidate to be moved up, right? That is actually a very easy way because people know that you're willing to take initiative.